Animal abuse. It happens every second of every day all over the world. Most countries, including the United States, have serious laws against such abuse, including large fines, imprisonment, forfeiture of animals, counseling, and cost of care for the animals removed. This according to the Tennessee Animal Cruelty Law. We've all heard the horrific stories of animal abuse. We've seen the sad dog commercials, and I'm sure we probably all know the Sarah McLachlan song that reminds us all of those sad stories. In seeing and hearing what happens to these helpless animals, we've probably all wanted to do something at some point. And if you haven't ever had the feeling or thought of doing something, I hope to bring those thoughts to you today. Today we're going to discuss animal cruelty, the reasons for the cruelty, and what we can do for our four-legged friends. We're going to talk about the animal abuse and torture that happens over in China. I want to urge you to listen, follow your heart, and be the voice for these helpless animals. The animal cruelty and abuse that happens here in the U.S. does not compare to the torture and abuse the animals receive over in China. According to Spencer Warren, who is the counsel to 2 congressmen and a senator, dog meat is sold in cans and vacuum packs in growing numbers of supermarkets in China. Different cultures have different religions, different ways of eating. Just as we have our hamburgers and hot dogs here, they have their dog meat over there. So it's just different cultures. What they consume is not raised near as much attention, though, as what actually happens to the animals before they're consumed. Every year there are more than 16 million dogs killed for animal or for human consumption. This according to the World Society for the Protection of Animals. At this point there are currently no laws over in China against animal cruelty. Professor Chang Wen of the Chinese Academy of the Social Sciences is one of the law's top campaigners. Cats and dogs are loyal friends to humans, he said. A ban on eating them would show China has reached a brand new level of civilization. Without being too graphic today, I want to show you the horrific way that these animals are killed each and every day and every moment. And I want to urge you to be the voice for them. If you take a look, first you see that the dogs are loaded up into cages. They're not individual cages. These dogs are loaded up and crammed so tight and so packed here that literally they die of lack of breath at times because they don't even have room to breathe. As you can see, they're crammed so tight too that there are times that broken legs happen, all kinds of sorts of things that happen to the animals before they even reach their destination. There are as many as 1,700 dogs loaded onto one flatbed truck at a time, transported to face their brutal death. Once the truck arrives at the market live, the restaurant, or the dog farm, the cages are removed from the truck. And as you can see, they're not just removed. These cages are thrown on the ground, thrown on top of one another, causing more injury than what already had happened prior to the drive. The drive can sometimes last up to 3 days, and these dogs are left in these cages, just as they are, for up to 3 days with no food or water. The cages remain stacked or thrown out on the street, as you can see here, until the dogs are selected for slaughter. It is believed that by the Chinese that the fear and torture that the dogs are put through causes an increase in adrenaline, which enhances the flavor of the meat and also makes it a little more tender. This is according to the Korea Animal Rights Advocates. It's not known if that's really true or not. The dogs then face an appalling end. Purposely, they are slaughtered in front of other animals and other dogs. This increases the fear and stress in the dogs. And then they're beaten. And when I say beaten, I don't mean just beaten. These dogs are clubbed, they're put in boiling pots, they're skinned alive, their throats are slit as they lay gasping for air on the ground until they actually die. Can you imagine what these dogs must be feeling? Any idea how they must feel as they watch helplessly as other animals are killed brutally in front of them? Can you imagine the cries that are heard all over by not only the dog being abused, but also by the onlookers as they watch in horror and just cry for help? All of this torture because the meat actually has a better taste after they're beaten. The thought of how these dogs are put to death is absolutely appalling and inhumane. But since this happens in another country, there's not a whole lot that we can really do about it here in the U.S. Well, actually, believe it or not, there is. There is something that we can do. This is something that can be stopped, and it's obvious it's not going to be stopped from within China, so we have to be the voice from the outside of China. We have to put the spotlight on China and urge them to end this horrible torture. There's petitions that you can sign against the torture. I'm going to actually pass out lists of them and let you take a look at those. You can also write letters to the Chinese ambassador. The biggest thing that we can do is just to tell people, as I'm doing today, raise awareness is the key. You have to be the voice for them. So in closing, I want to reiterate the fact that dogs are being tortured and beaten right now in this moment as we speak. They're being hung, skinned alive, beaten with clubs, and boiled to death, all in front of other dogs, and exactly why they're coherent in a way. They're being caged so tightly that they literally cannot breathe at times. They lose their life before they even get to the dog farm. Their feet never touch the ground until they're removed from the cages and selected for slaughtering. Dog lover or not, everyone has to agree that this is totally inhumane and atrocious. It's just plain cruel. As a society who believes in animal rights, it is our duty to make a stand, set some standards, and bring attention to this horrific crime. I've already signed the petitions, and I've mailed letters to the Chinese ambassador, and now I'm raising awareness to you. As you can see on this graph, the type of animal that's always abused is typically, as you can see, a companion. No farm animals, wildlife, or other animals, it's typically a companion animal, and that's definitely the case in China. So again, I've raised awareness to you. I'm leaving it now in your hands. I want to urge you to take a stand and be the voice for man's best friend.